All right. Anyway, again, today's topic is about the World Wide Web, and it's going to be part one. World Wide Web discussion is very broad. Medyo taas kayo siya ng discussion. So we'll just go for today's discussion. We're just going to make it short, keep it short, and then we'll focus more on the fundamentals on the World Wide Web. And then on our next meeting, which is the part two, we'll talk about in much deeper approach or mas detailed on how exactly the World Wide Web works. Okay. So if you have any questions or clarifications, please share it by the end of the class, or you can click the raise your hand icon. Kita mo ng raise your hand na icon sa inyong screen right now, sa inyong Google Meet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you have any questions or clarifications, or if you'd like to make a statement, kindly click on that, and then if makabantay ko, I'll get your attention, and then you can also send a message here in our in-call messages. Is it possible for you to turn on your cameras, guys, so I can see you while we're doing our class? Okay, thank you. All right. Only for those katong kaya. If na unlimited internet, please do so. Salamat. Okay. Anong taguan ko ng mga gwapo-gwapo man. Alright, so that way it would be easy for me to talk. It's because I can see somebody. Thank you. Alright, so just a review. Last meeting during orientation, we talked about our online and modular learning management systems that we'll be using, course summary and class arrangement, and then course requirements and student directory, and then the tools for web development or web programming as a whole. So have you, especially kaning area, kaning sa student directory, have you filled it out already? Muna ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And today we'll talk about the World Wide Web, particularly the internet and the World Wide Web, classification of websites, and how the web works. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so to start with, before we start, think or imagine you are going to look up for the best build for a hero on your favorite mobile game on the internet. Here are some questions. What website are you going to use or visit? How long will it take for you to see the result? And were you able to get the result that you want? And if so, how does the internet provide you with the result? What are the processes behind how it works? Okay, kinsay makarelate ani. Ako, I am not really a gamer, dili ko gamer, and then na-focus lang ko og dula because out of my friends, ako rin dili kabalo mo dula. So, katong nauso tong Mobile Legends sa una, na-focus ko og dula. And since dili ko kabalo, di ko kabalo kung saan pag-stack up og emblem, or di ko kabalo mo stack up og mga skills ba paliton, mga items kumbaga. I'll do research. Kinsay makarelate ana kanang i-research, i-Google. For example, akong favorite sa una si Terizla man to. Karon wa na ko gandula. Ang favorite kay Terizla niya. Di ko kabalo unsaon siya paggamit, so mag-search ko unsaon unsay akong gamiton nga item. Kinsay makarelate ana?
Me, sir.
Okay,
Gamer, sir.
Okay. I can still remember akong pinakauna nga hero nga gipalit gyud is Leomord. Leomord, and then after ana, I get very good at it. Ako classmate, ako nga kauban tingalas learn. Kuan din na. Kusgan na. Leomord. And then after that, I bought Terizla, and then that's it. I stopped playing. So I have two heroes, and I'm not really good at it, but at least ba kabalo ko. Kay dili ba sila common nga heroes. But then I have to research sa on paggamit item. Now, it's not just for gaming, but just about anything. Just about anything that you would like to do on the internet, on the World Wide Web. Here are some of the things that maybe not kaligtaan nato, wala nato gina-think usually. So for example, we want to play some music, we open up Spotify. So we already answered the question, what website are you going to visit? So that's Spotify. How long will it take for you to see the result? So tonight we play of something reggae in the morning. Just example, dili ko inana. For example, ganahan ka mo play of reggae in the morning. You open up Spotify. How long did it take you to get the result of the list of those music na imong gina-play? right? And then were you able to get the result that you want? Were you able to select the music that you want to play? And if so, how does the internet provide you with the result? Yun sa siguro pag-provide to you the music, the songs that and that is playing now on your Spotify, and what are the processes behind how it works. So the moment that you open up the app, I would say mga processes behind the moment that you open it up, research the music, and then play it, and then hear it on your phone. Unsa siguro ang mga processes na involved. Okay? The same thing with ganahan ka mo message yung friend. You wanted to message your friend on Facebook, you open up your messenger, then imo siyang gipangita sa imong list of friends, you type the text, send it, and how long do you think it took for you to send a text? And if ni-reply siya, how long do you think it took for you to receive it? And then what are the processes involved? Unsa siguro yung mga processes nga nang involved until stasiyam that you send it, that he or she received the text, and then you get the reply, the response. Alright, so maybe some of us, maybe most of us ato ra nang gikaligtaan, but today's lesson we're going to start learning how exactly this works, specifically the World Wide Web, in utilizing our daily activity. Because World Wide Web most of the time is one of the most useful, one of the not useful but one of the most used activity sa for us students, for us teachers, and for us just individuals, especially right now during pandemic, we've often used sa World Wide Web even more than before. Okay, so the World Wide Web, we use it almost every day. We're doing our research, communicating with our friends and families, watching our favorite videos, streaming our favorite movies, and many more. To many, the World Wide Web has been a favorite place to hang out during our free hours. But how exactly the World Wide Web works? What are the sequences of activities being done the moment we enter the web site address and get the result that we want? So that's true, especially during the pandemic. Real Filipinos and the entire world has gone into the World Wide Web even more. Mas ni grabe ang ato ang time that we focus on the World Wide Web during the pandemic, because especially katong the early days of pandemic, since we don't exactly have much to do. we don't have much to do. Maybe na internet ra jud. All right, even if we watch movies, we use internet. We use the World Wide Web. So that's why it's this statement here is very true. We use it for almost every day. But today, again, for this topic, we're going to understand exactly how it works. Okay. So let's start by discussing about the internet and the World Wide Web. So we're going to differentiate the internet and the World Wide Web. So maybe some of us will say, "Oy, mag-research ko sa internet." Oy, i-research sa World Wide Web. Or i-research sa web. What exactly is the right term? And how does this two differ? Because this is pinaka-common siya nga confusion between people. What is the difference between the World Wide Web and the internet? So in this way, it would be the next time that we're going to use these terms, we already know the difference between them. So let's talk about the internet first. The internet is the term used to refer to massive network, okay? Massive network of millions of computers around the globe. So it's like, if there are computers that are connected the entire world, or if there are two or more computers that are connected, we already have a computer network. For example, if these are connected, these are called computer network. Okay? If there are two or more computers. However, if there are millions of computers around the globe, meaning dili lang sa Philippines, dili lang sa Negros, dili lang sa entire Philippines, but the entire world is connected together, then that is called internet. Okay? So if there are only two 3 computers, or maybe for example kanang sa atong computer laboratory na ay mga 20 kabuk PC, and that is computer network, one type of computer network. But if we talk about millions of computers around the globe that is connected together, that is called the internet. So right now, my computer is connected on your smartphones or on your laptops or on your computer at home because we are connected to the internet. We are interconnected with the rest of the computers around the globe. So these are the computers that are connected using different networking medium to share and receive data. Okay, so just think of it that the reason why you can see me, you can hear me, and at the same time I can hear and see you as well if you turn on your cameras, it's because we are connected to a massive network of millions of computers around the globe. That means right now we are connected to computers in America, in Australia, in Europe, in Africa, continents, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's it. That's the internet. If it's a connection between millions of computers around the globe, and if you've noticed, share and receive data. So that's the job of the internet, is make sure that the computers around the globe who's connected to it can share and receive data. Right now, I am receiving and I'm sending data on your devices, on your smartphones, on your laptops, on your PCs at home. At the same time, you're also doing that to me and to everybody. Okay, what are these data? Kani akong naong ron yung makita, akong tingog na yung madungog, and then kaning akong screen nga inyong mabasa. Right? These are the data that is being transmitted through our devices, and that would be using the internet. Okay? So that's why this link can be accessed bisan kung naman gatay estudyante, natay classmate nga naa sa America, pwede sila maka-join because again, the internet is connected in the entire world. So if nasa sila ani nga link, pwede sila maka-join ganyan. Alright, so that's the internet. The World Wide Web, however, okay? The World Wide Web is a way of transmitting data. So remember that the internet is a highway, murashag highway that is used by computers to share and receive data. The World Wide Web is a way of transmitting. When we say transmitting, that is sending and receiving data. Alright? So the World Wide Web is just a way of transmitting the data. And we use the internet for us to be able to transmit the data that we're talking about. Okay? This is through the use of Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP, and Hypertext Markup Language. Okay? Kinsay nakabantay ani before? Raise your hand. Wala? Kani siya, asa ta usually kita ano? Kinsay nakabantay ani?
Mute ka, sir.
Sorry, napislit na ako. Okay. Alright, kinsay nakabantay ani before? I'm sorry. HTTP. Sorry, gikaon ko ha. Kamu po pwede mo magkaon. Na ulit ha. Alright, wala yung kabantay ani before? Kinsay
No, sir. Every time you
Search the address bar. Search, sir.
Okay, again, raise your hand. So, let's hear from Andaya. Go ahead. I-click niyo yung raise your hand para ma-get na kayo. Go ahead,
Sir,
Andaya.
ako nang mag-search, sir, sa Google or sa internet. So first, is my HTTP.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so that's true. If we open up browsers and on our URL, for example, we open ko YouTube. If you open up YouTube, you will see the protocol here with na yung connection. Okay, wala pa siya kalod. But usually we will see it here, di ba? Kalisod siya og load yung connection. You will see it right here. Am I correct? Dari nga area. So if you see HTTP, and sometimes it will say HTTPS, all right, instead of HTTP. It's okay. the actual protocol that is being used is HTTP. But if we see S in the end, HTTPS, that means it's secured. The S stands for secured layer. So meaning, if ang website nyo yung givisit na ay S, you can assure that it uses a more secured layer of protection. Oh, I'm sorry. It uses a secured layer. Okay, you'll understand that more later on, or maybe on your data communication subject. What is a secured socket layer? SSL, kumaga. So it uses secured socket layer, meaning every information, sa ito ka ng password, confidential, okay? Every confidential information that you are using inside this website is going to be encrypted, especially password. So ang password niya, while it's being transported to the web servers, instead nga makita yung password, magkuhan siya, i-convert into mga nanira ba? Convert niya mga ingon ani. So it will encrypt the password, credit card information, or something like, or bank information, something like that. Any confidential information will be encrypted while it's being used in the entire website. So that's just another security measure for websites. But HTTP or Hypertext Transfer Protocol is the one who's processing the web request. We'll talk more about it in a few moments. And using Hypertext Markup Language. Kinsa nakabantay po daan or naka-familiar ani unsa lang na siya? Raise your hand.
A set of code, sir.
Katipunan. Yeah, that's correct. It's a set of code that our browsers understand. So it's like the language of the web. All right. It's not really a language, but it is considered to be the language of the web. Okay. So it is the codes that our browsers understand. So that's why every time that we're going to create a website, it should be written on an HTML, or it should be written on in a program that can be converted into HTML. Anyway, we'll talk more about it in just a moment. So that's the World Wide Web. Okay. So if the internet is like the highway, the internet is a connection of millions of computers around the globe. Wala siya computer highway ba? Tanang computers connected to it, the entire world, and then so that all those computers can share and receive data to each other. The World Wide Web is just a way of sending and receiving those data. All right? Did you see the differences already? So, ang World Wide
Yes,
Web,
sir.
mura siyang highway kung diin dito nagka-connect ang mga computers para pwede silang makasend o receive of data. The World Wide Web is just a way of sending and receiving those data. Okay? Let me explain that to you in a much easier way. So imagine you are invited to your friend's house. Na kay friend, and let's say, obviously, lailay mo balay, di ba? Lailay mo balay, and then that's it. For you to be able to visit your friend's house, for example, this is your friend's house, this is your house. How are you going to visit your friend's house, by the way? There are one way only to do it. First is, there must be some kind of a way, some kind of a road that connects your house to your friend's house. Dapat na idalan padulong sila ha. Okay? So imagine, this is your house, this is your friend's house, and for you to be able to visit your friend's house, it needs to be connected in some way. For example, a road. Okay, let's call it road. Okay? Now, the only thing that we're going to do now is our transportation. Now, if your friend is just perhaps nara sa couple blocks away lang, nara sa Pikas na street, then na kay skateboard, or pwede lang mong lakawon, then you can walk your way to your friend's house. If na kay skateboard, you can skate your way to your friend's house. That's one way, right? Now, if your friend lives, pwede po na kay bike, pag layo na siya, na kay bike, na kay motorcycle, you can paddle your way to your friend's house. Now, that is if your friend lives in the same area as you are. However, if your friend is very far away, let's say nana siya sa Dumaguete, na kadres Bais, then you can if naa kay dakong sakyanan, or you can also ride the bus, and then and then commute your way to your friend's house. There are different ways, diba? Depending kung sa mong kinahanglan. Depende kung sa kalayo ang imong travel. Right? So that's the same case with the World Wide Web and the internet. So imagine, right now there are only 2 computers, but by definition there must be millions of computers. Okay? But for example, for your computer and my computer to be connected, it needs to be connected in some way. And that would be the internet. This one right here. So this is like the internet that allows communication between my computer and your computer. Okay? And how am I going to transmit data to your computer? So for example, ganahan ko mo send nimo email from here in my end to your end. I'm going to send you an email. So I'm going to use I'm going to use Gmail. I'm going to use Gmail, and the Gmail will be used to transmit the data. Okay? And then what if ganahan ko mo visit a website? Okay? For example, this is the computer where YouTube is. For example, mo diri naka-save ang YouTube na this is the For example, I want to play a video through YouTube. So if this is YouTube server, kana siya, then using my end, diri ko, I'm going to send a request to YouTube so that I will be able to play a video that I want to play. So I'm going to use an HTTP, and then the YouTube server will send it back to me here in my end para mo play siya sa akong end. Okay? And then another example, if ganahan kang mo tweet your friend, same thing. You use Twitter to transmit data, and then if ganahan kang mo like, post, or send a message to your friend through Facebook, then Facebook will transmit the data. Okay? So that's the same thing. So these are the World Wide Web. These ways of transmitting the data is using the World Wide Web, and then the way that your computer and your friend's computer or any other computers around the globe is connected together is through the internet. Okay? So, again, going back to my example a while ago, ang Ayungon, ang Bais, Bindoy, Dumaguete, Tanhay, Manhuyod, the rest of the cities or towns in Negros Oriental are connected with a road, diba? National highway. So, the national highway and the towns that are connected to it is like the internet. And for people to travel from one place to another, from one town to another, kinahanglan silang mo ride og sakyanan, sakay sakyanan, then that is like the World Wide Web. So, ang mga sakyanan magmudala sa sa tao from one place to another. Same with the World Wide Web, transmit the data from one computer to another. Right? Did you get the differences now between the World Wide Web and the internet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I couldn't make it much easier to explain. Right? That is the easiest way to explain the differences between the World Wide Web and the internet. Just think of Okay. Just think of the highway, kanang highway na to sa Negros as the internet that connects the towns together para dali natong pag-travel. And then our way of traveling from one place to another is like the World Wide Web. Okay, sometimes bus, sometimes natay sakyanan, sometimes natay motor. That is like the World Wide Web. Okay, so if you will talk about World Wide Web and the work of a web programmer, there's only one thing that we are ought to do. Usara jud ang kinahanglan natong buhaton, and that is gonna be websites. That is our job description. If we will become a web programmer soon, our job description is to create and develop websites. Alright, so it only matters that we're going to talk about website as well. So a website is a collection of web pages that constitutes the World Wide Web and published on a web server. Alright, so that is the main reason we have World Wide Web, so that we'll be able to transmit data. And those data will be saved on a website, and it is published on a web server. Okay, we'll talk more about web server later on. Websites are usually used as an effective medium in sharing information and serving the purpose of any organization. So that's why if you have a company, okay, soon if mutukod mo inyong company pohon, or if you know a company, they always make sure that they have website. They have a website because that is the easiest way and the most effective way in sharing information and serving the purpose of any organization. All right. So especially if ganahan ka og company, if ang company nimo tries to become one of the biggest, good, you have to open up a website. So that's why right now, nowadays, web developers, web designers is one of the most pinaka in demand na job online. Okay, so that's why I'm encouraging you to take this course seriously because this might land you a job in the future. And this type of job is not the job that okay, masweldo ra gyud may masweldo minimum. This will give you salary that you can't imagine, especially if makachamba ka kung company. So I encourage you guys to take this course very seriously because the entire world is daghan na kayong companies, especially in the western area, mag-hire sila sige og mga web developers, web designers, because that is the most effective way in sharing information. Diya mo taas ang ilahang income when it comes to because of the websites. And a website can be classified into two categories. We have static websites and dynamic websites. So let's talk about the two types of websites, and that's going to be again static and dynamic. What are these, the disadvantages and advantages? Let's start with the static website. Static website contains non-interactive and fixed contents. Users can only read and view its content without performing any other activities. Static websites are mostly developed using only Hypertext Markup Language or HTML and Cascading Style Sheets or CSS. Kinsay nakatry na og HTML or naka-experience of HTML before? Anyone?
Oh, sir.
Ortega, go ahead. Would you like to share with us?
By doing some research, sir, I have made some kind of website that is like a player, sir. Like that.
Okay, so nakagama na kag imong website using HTML?
Yes, by using HTML and JavaScript and CSS. But it is only one.
That's good. All right. So I expect that it's not gonna be hard for you to do this course. Di na ka mag-listen noon, Ani. And then perhaps we can help your classmates too.
Yes, sir, because I have background knowledge.
Okay, so guys, mag-coding na tayo, know your source. I don't know. I encourage that. Actually, I don't mind sharing content. In my previous semesters nga gatod ako web development. Ngayon nga mag-share na yung code, sige, pag-share na mo so long as you'll be able to understand what you're sharing. Okay, so you already have one source. Kinsa pa lain? Nato lain nga ni-raise the hand of bakay kinsa. Kinsa naka-experience of HTML before? And maybe CSS.
Oh, sir, but that was already 13 years ago.
Dugay na gud.
Nalimot na gid ko, body ra gud akong.
Alright, okay, that's good to hear. Alright, it's okay. Again, this is web programming, so the first part of our lesson, before midterm, we're going to learn about hypertext markup language. Or I cannot promise before midterm can medyo madugay tag start sa klase, but we'll start easy when we're going to develop websites or design websites. We're going to start from the easiest, and that's gonna be using or designing websites using only hypertext markup language and CSS, and then we're going to upgrade it a little. We're going to upgrade from time to time. So that's why katong akong gipa-install ninyo yung application, katong solo learn, and then katong learn HTML. Basta na ako yung katong akong gipa-install ninyo mga apps. That was very helpful, guys. That was very helpful, good, when it comes to learning HTML because dili na ako pwedeng i-discuss. There are hundreds of HTML tags, and di na ako siya pwede i-discuss tanan because mahurot atong oras of discuss lang. So I want you guys to do some research when we're going to do a discussion about HTML. Please do research in advance because di na ko tanan dapat i-share ninyo because we only have limited time. So once I've already introduced to you the basic tags, it would be your job to know the rest. That also includes with the CSS. Dagan kayo mga proper CSS properties, dagan kayong HTML tags. Alright, anyway, Static website contains non-interactive. When you say non-interactive, there are no interaction. There are no interaction between the user and the website itself. Maybe these types of website are no longer existing, or if naman ganit talaga sa nalang kaayo, because most of the websites allows interaction between the user and the website itself. Like Facebook, pwede kang makalike, pwede kang makapost, pwede kang makasend a message to your friend. That is already interaction. But there are some websites called static websites that do not. Again, talagsa na lang kaayo na siya ng mga websites karon, but these types of websites are non-interactive, meaning the only job or the only thing that it's doing is to show you, and that's all. Wala na ilang gamit. To show you the contents that is written to it, wala na. Okay, mura siyang book ba? Mura siyang book nga wala interaction. Mura siyang notebook, mura siyang papel nga there are no interactions. Or newspaper, kumbaga, ready na, naka-display na diha ang details, di na mo pwede interact, pasahon lang nimo. That's static websites. Dynamic websites, however, can perform complex functionalities and returns data based on the user's preference. Dynamic websites are interactive, meaning users can manipulate the website to produce the desired content. Okay, so this is the most common websites, the dynamic websites. It allows interaction between the user and the website itself. Would anyone care to give us an example of a dynamic website? Based on this description alone, based on the definition, can anyone give us an example? Give us a dynamic website. One lang. Kinsa? Go ahead, Pila Campo.
Facebook, sir. Example.
Okay, Facebook. Alright, it's true because in Facebook you can interact with your friends, you can interact with people. That is also on Facebook. Ano ba? Anyway. Andaya, go ahead. Sorry, medyo choppy si Miss Andaya. Ang salang di ay?
Twitter, sir.
Twitter.
Or YouTube.
Okay. Unsa may interaction between the Twitter? Unsa may nganong dynamic ang Twitter, Miss?
Kaya pwede kang maka-share, sir. Din na pwede maka-comment. Like, wala ko siya sa Facebook.
Social media sa siya. Alright? Si si Lianera. Go ahead, Lianera.
Snapchat and Instagram, sir.
Okay, nga naman yung dynamic ang Snapchat at Instagram.
Same Japan siya sa Twitter, so yung maka-interact with your friends.
Okay, alright, that's true. Okay, thank you guys. So basically, those websites that was mentioned are all dynamic websites. And most websites nowadays are dynamic websites because it allows interaction between the user and the website itself. So one good example, okay, in this area right here, users can manipulate the website. Users can manipulate the website to produce the desired content. What exactly that means? To produce the desired content. Let's say, for example lang naman. If I'm going to open up YouTube. Okay, please bear with me, medyo hina yung connection. Ay, alright. So this is the YouTube. My YouTube dashboard. It's not really dashboard, but a homepage. Okay, this is the homepage of my YouTube account. Do you think it's the same thing that you'll see on your end if you open up Facebook on your own? Same ba taog content siguro? What do you think? Inali ba pod inyong makita?
No.
Sir.
Alright?
Yes.
Okay, most of the time, makita there is a tags ang inyong gina-play recently. So, in my case na ay music, makes electric guitar, live, house card guardian, okay. House of the Dragon is a gaming, contemporary, worship music. So, these are the tags or categories of videos that I usually watch on YouTube. So, because of my preferences, whatever it is that is displayed in my end, in my YouTube account is different. It's going to be different from your end as well because we have different preferences, and YouTube understands that. Since na ako ang kaugaling mga preferences, the reason why the mga recommended nga videos are gonna be all only for those katong akong naset nga preferences because of what I'm usually watching, diba? Same po siguro sa inyo ha, kung mo open nyo sa inyong Facebook, sa inyong YouTube, katong mga gina-open nyo usually are the same, would be the mga recommended po nga videos similar to what you've been watching recently, something like that. So that is manipulating the manipulating the website to produce the desired content. Another definition or another way that we can prove this to be true is ganan ko nga mo play og video. For example, ganan ko mo play video kani. Kung ako na siyang i-play, I already manipulated the website to play this specific content because I manipulated it. So the same thing. It's not exactly that when we open up YouTube, kanida yun inyong makita, but the only reason why nga ni-display ni siya because I made YouTube to do it myself. Ako man siyang gi-instructan nga kanay mo akong ganang display. That's why mo po ni siya di-display. Alright? So that is what manipulating the website to produce the desired content means. So that is dynamic websites. Okay? Unlike sa static nga mura siya newspaper nga gi-print ra dito ang tanang information nga imong kinahanglan and all you need to do is just read it. Dynamic websites, you can manipulate the content that you want to see. Alright, perfect attendance around. That's good. There are 24 of us. That's good. Alright. So, for example, ganan ka mo book o ganan ka mo travel. Okay, nakadawat ka yung scholarship sa NORSU, ganan ka mo travel mo ka og South Korea. Alright? So, you book your travel online or siguro para mas dali, you book travel. So, you entered your personal information. Okay, your name, your address, destination, so South Korea, business class, and then set the time nga imong adtoon. Time nga kana ba? Time kana sa and then you'll get the summary and then you'll get the total amount automatically because the website will automatically compute it for you. Now this is just an example, okay? So this type of interactivity is not available on static websites. This is only available for dynamic websites only. So this is also another example of dynamic website because it will allow na forms and then based on the information that you entered, it computed the total amount. Alright? And then if you click book now, and then take it booked. Okay? So that is just another example of a dynamic website. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each of these categories. So for static websites, obviously it's easier to develop. So since imuhang trabaho is just to display, or since the website's job is only to display contents on a screen, then it's easier to develop because it will only use HTML and CSS. Okay, so since it will only use HTML and CSS and no other functionalities that or features that will be used, then it is easier to develop compared to dynamic. Another advantage is it's cheap to develop. All right, so since it will only use HTML and CSS, you don't necessarily have to hire an advanced web developer. So it's cheap to develop. You don't have to pay for extra, especially if this is on the point of view of a company, by the way. And then cheap to host. When you say hosting, that is uploading your website to the World Wide Web para makita siya sa ibang tao. So there are no additional feature means no additional cost. Again, since only HTML and CSS, the only thing that you're going to pay for is only for these services. Most of the hosting company magbayad ka every feature, every extra feature na imong gi-add sa imong website, magbayad po kag dungag. We'll learn more about hosting in the future soon. But it's cheap to host because you'll only be paying for HTML and CSS only. And that is relatively cheap. And then there are also disadvantages. Obviously, having a static website to run a company's information or a company's product or customer involvement, static website is a huge disadvantage. First is updating the content is more complicated. Okay, what does that mean? Who can plan? Alright, and laki na the description. Updating the contents need to be manually structured. Okay? What that means is, for example, ma-open ko og ayaw ng Instagram, rito sa Facebook. Dito na siya Facebook na lang. Ayaw ni nga account katong usa. Okay. For example, this is my Facebook for atong para sa academic purposes. Alright. So this is my Facebook account. Nasa ngalan Juleus Publico, and then ako profile name, a profile picture, and then the rest. Now, if ganat ko mousab og one content, og usara ka content. For example, I'd like to change my profile picture. Unsa na ko? We already know how to do that. Click on it and then update profile picture. And then if I'm going to upload one, select one right here, or upload ko gikan sa akong computers, and then click upload, mo change na siya directly. So how long will it take? Maybe pinakataas 1 minute, you're able to change your profile picture using dynamic websites. However, since for static websites, it's not gonna be as easy as that. Remember, static websites do not allow interaction. So since this is an interaction, sayon ra. But since if this website is not a dynamic, if this website is a static website, I cannot do this, right? Di na ko siya pwedeng i-click niyo, or for example, change na ako ang name, di na ako pwedeng mato sa settings, dayon dito na ako i-change, dili na pwede, di ba? Because it's static. So how am I going to do it? I have to open up the code. Kinahanglan na akong i-open ang code, and then i-manual na akong enter ang akong name. If isla na ako ang profile picture, i-open na po na ako ang codes na pod, i-edit na ako ang codes, and then isla na ako ang picture. So asa siguro ang masayon? Katong mag-click ra ko ani using dynamic or the static way of updating contents. Asa masayon? Guys?
Dynamic guru, sir.
Dynamic, sir.
Dynamic guru. Right. It's the dynamic. Because using dynamic websites, it will allow us to update the contents easier depending on its functionalities. Just like atong example, if can I change my profile picture, and just have to click on the update profile picture and upload a new one. So maybe 1 minute humana. But if it's static, I have to open up the code and manually enter this. Now, it's one another problem is that if dili ka kabalong mo code, here's another disadvantage. Another disadvantage of a static website is if dili ka kabalong mo code, then you'll have to pay for a web designer or web developer for them to do it for you, diba? So that's it. Updating the content is more complicated in static website. Another disadvantage is site is not as useful. Dili kayo siya gamit. It's because it is only as good as reading and viewing. So maybe useful na siya o ganahan kang for example, na kay website nga mo ganahan nimo is mo display ra sa imong product wala interactions. Pwede na. However, for example, ang price niya mo na specific price. Gabaligya ka og unsa man gabaligya kag watch. Gabaligya kag relo sa imong website. Ang price ani butang nato 1,000 pesos. And then the following month nag-sale ka. So you have to change instead of 1,000 mo na 700 pesos. So how are you going to do that easier? You'll have to manually do it every time. So every time nga na I changes, you have to do it manually. So therefore, site is not as useful because it's only as good as reading and viewing. There are no interactions that can be used. Wala interaction yung mahimo. So that's it. And then it's not suitable for long run. So kato akong example kay na if maligya ka sa imong website, it's not useful for keeping up with the updates and trends. So if after pila ka month magdungag na pag ang product, mag-change po ka sa imong prices, then it's not suitable for the long run good because you have to do everything manually. Using coding or every time nga na kay i-update kinahanglan ka hire o editor or web designer or something like that. Okay, and then let's talk about the advantages of a dynamic website. First is its interactivity. It offers additional functions and customizing the contents based on the user's preference. So one of the obvious advantage of a dynamic website is its interactivity. It would be easier and it would be more useful to the users because it allows customization, meaning pwedeng iset sa users ang ilang makita sa ilang screen, just like atong sa YouTube kanina. Alright? Since there are interactivity, it can offer additional functions. And then easy to update. Most dynamic websites are built with a unique functionality that allows content to be updated manually. So, just like ato akong game mo example ganina, if ganad kong i-change na ako akong name, i-change na akong profile picture, I just have to click on that, update the profile picture, and then that's it. I'm done. So, it's easy to update. So, if ganad kong mag-post og new, mag-post ko og pictures, mag-post ko og, what's on your mind, kumbaga, then it's easy for me to do so because the website allows me to do it, or allows that capability or functionality. And then responsiveness. So when say responsiveness, it is the ability to adapt to different screen sizes and resolution. What exactly that means? What is website responsiveness? One of our job as a web designer, one of our job as web designer or web programmer soon is to make sure that our website is going to be responsive. What do you mean by responsive? From the terms of just respond, okay? It will be able to respond to different screen sizes and resolution. Stability, okay, that's also true. But this is what specifically responsive means. Notice Facebook, okay? This is how Facebook looks like when you say it's a Facebook. If you're going to view it on a desktop, okay? Now, let's try to change our preference. Let's try to view it on mobile. So, ganahan yung i-view mobile. Muna hitsura niya kung i-view siya sa imong browser on mobile. Inani ba ato ang Okay, inani ba ang hitsura sa Facebook kung mag-mobile ba? Inani, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
notice any difference?
Smaller.
Okay, smaller and everything is more compact, diba? So that is that is what it means to become a responsive website. Your website is capable of adapting to different screen sizes and resolution. So, for example, let's change just to butang nato o Galaxy Fold kana nindot kini nga phone. So, munit sura niya kung ma-open ta og Galaxy Fold, inani set nato og iPhone 12 Pro. Mausa niya ang itsura sa iPhone 12 Pro because all the devices around the globe has different screen sizes. Especially karon panahon na nga nauso na ni mga widescreen, full screen ng mga phones, lahi na og sapod. So therefore, our job as a web designer is to make sure that our website will respond to different screen sizes and resolution. So for example, tanawan ni nga parts of photos. Right now I am on iPhone 12 Pro. Let's change it to balik to Galaxy Fold. Tanawang photos right now there are three columns. Let's change it to Galaxy Fold. Three ra gyapon. Let's change it to something else. iPhone Pixel 5 3 ra gyapon. I thought may mo siyang duha. But it's okay. I mean, what that means is that the website is capable of adapting. So if we're going to go back to, let's say na by tablet. May tablet din. iPad Air. Okay, iPad Air. So this is how the this is how Facebook looks like on iPad. So notice nga na magsige siya change depending on the browser that I'm using. So what happens if dili responsive ang imuhang website? Magkaguba. Especially if imo siyang gi-design only for desktop. Okay, more good project na mo sir sa computer ang gigamit, so ang hitsura niya is pang desktop. Good. So what happens usually if dili responsive ang website, if imo siyang i-change, imo siyang i-view og lain nga device, either ma-stretch or magkalapaw-lapaw ang imong mga graphics. Your website is not responsive. So that is one of the advantage of a dynamic website. It allows ability to adapt to different sizes and resolution. So again, that's one of our jobs as web developers to make sure that our design is going to be, or our website is going to be a responsive one. Next, easy navigation. Users can easily transfer from one page to another. Again, because of the interactivity, it's easy for you to transfer from one page to another. So for example, open tag friends direct. Ayun lang ng friends kay mag-stop ta. Alright, let's go to home. This is the Facebook. What do you mean by easy navigation? You can transfer from one page to another easier. So, okay. This is an example of one page to another. Right now, I'm on the home page. So makita na ko tanang feeds coming from my friends. And then if ganun ko mo open up sa sa mga videos that are recently uploaded through YouTube. So I'm just going to click here, and then it will display the videos that are gina-upload. Ganahan ko mo tanaw og mga baligya sa Facebook. I'm going to click Marketplace. Okay, and then I can see the mga gina-post na mga items sa Facebook. That's it. So basically, I was able to transfer from one page to another because of easier navigation, brought to you by dynamic websites. So that is the advantages of a dynamic website. However, using a dynamic website, kung dili siya puro advantage, ito siya mga disadvantages, minor disadvantages with dynamic website. One is it's expensive. Okay, what do you mean by expensive? It's about hosting and developing. Dynamic websites are more expensive compared to static. Expensive in a way that you will have to pay additional features like database, email services. It will require additional cost. So if imo na siyang i-host na, imo na i-upload sa World Wide Web, you'll have to pay for the services that you will be using. So if imo website na i-database, you'll have to pay for that. Or kung na magana email services, kana mo subscribe to our newsletters, something like that. You have to pay for the email service and many more. So if na kay basta so far mo man usually nga mga feature nga imong bayaran extra. So if gagamit ka og programming language like PHP, you have to pay for PHP as well. PHP is the programming language that we'll be using for web development, by the way. So, and another way that it is expensive is for the point of view. For example, nag-own kang company, so you'll have to hire an actual web developer para maintain ang imong website. So that's why it's expensive. And then another disadvantage is slow processing. Web servers will require additional processes to render the scripts. Okay, so we'll learn more about how the web servers process web requests later on. But let's just say since there are more contents to process, that's why sometimes medyo mas hinay ang iyang processing. Dugay na itong ma-receive ang atong email, atong website nga atong gina-visit. It's because it will have slower processing compared to static. Alright, do you have any questions so far? Please on the topics. Okay. Alright, so this is going to be the last of today's topic. This is the last part. We're going to discuss briefly the general idea on how the web works. Again, this topic is very broad. Medyo taas taas na siya nga topic, but we're just going to discuss the general idea lang for today, and then we'll continue with the discussion now next week. Alright. So the process of how the web works can be summarized into a series of interaction between three different systems. So, for example, if we visit a website, ganina itong gibuhat is na-visit ang Facebook, na-visit ang YouTube. Every time that we're going to visit these websites, know that it is summarized into series of interactions between three different systems, namely clients, servers, and domain name system servers, or DNS servers. Alright, so let's talk about how exactly this works and what exactly these are, and then in our next meeting we will continue with discussing these in more details. Alright, so let's start by understanding what exactly are clients. Clients are devices and software that request, devices and software that request and render web contents. Okay, this includes web browsers, online games, music and video streaming apps, online shopping applications, and many more. Okay, so if you have a software, if you have an application that uses or that requests and render web contents on the screen, that is a client. Okay, so based on this description or definition, can you guys give us an example? Alright, just raise your hand. Please give us an example of a client based on your understanding with the definition. Anyone? Sega, go ahead.
To answer, kanang Chrome.
Chrome. Okay, that's true. Chrome. browsers. All right. Okay. So aside from web browsers, all right. So that's true. Thank you, Miss Sega. Okay. Aside from web browsers like Chrome, Edge, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, what else? Based on your understanding with this. Go on. So dili lang siya web browsers. Web browsers are one example of a client, but what else? Unsa pilain? And how?
TikTok, sir.
TikTok. All right, that's good. TikTok. Ngano TikTok man? Ngano siguro ang TikTok Miss Anha? Ngano client ang TikTok?
Ano siya, sir? One of the example of video stream application, sir. Pwede ka maka-live dito.
Okay.
And
Okay. So that's good. That's true. Thank you, Miss Anha. TikTok is a client. It's because it renders web content. So unsay mga web content nga ang render mga videos. Mga videos nga atong mga trending na videos, educational videos, something like that. So since it renders, it requests and renders web contents. So TikTok is an example of a client. Another way it's a client because yun sa may pag-request. Okay, ganahan ka mo open og mo upload og TikTok video. Open kag filter, i-search mo filter mo ganahan and then upload. So you're already sending a request to the TikTok servers. Right? So that's why TikTok is planned. Another example. Villacampa.
Shopee, sir.
Okay, Shopee. Alright, nga Shopee, nga web content, ang anong client mo Shopee?
Kay dito ito magbulong man ka kung unsay mong ginan nga kuan paliton, sir.
And then, display po siya sa inyong screen, right? Tagang ka list of products. Okay. That's good. That's true. Thank you. That's correct. So, for example, kailangan ko mo palit o anything that you would like to kuan. Unsa may mo recently gipalit? Kani. Last na akong gipalit is kani. Guitar effects pedal. Right? So, if kailangan mo palit og mga unsa nga items, you'll have to search on it and then pangitaon nimo itong pinaka best na deals as much as possible. Always select the best deals and if possible kana ma-apply nimo imong mga vouchers na available, something like that. And then Shopee will provide you Lazada, Zalora, Shein will display you the list of products that you want and you just have to based sa imong research or based sa imong mga previous na search, basically mahatag sila recommendations. And then you just have to select the best deals and then proceed to the checkout. So that's it. Client is also one. Shopee, Lazada, Zalora, Shein are some of the examples of a client. So napailain, we have music and video streaming apps like Netflix, Spotify, YouTube app, Facebook apps, Twitter, social media, and then games. All right. Online games, Call of Duty Mobile, Mobile Legends, bisag dili mobile, bisag unsa nga mga games so long as it uses the internet for communicating with another players around the globe, that is also a client. Okay? Servers are applications that deliver web content or services to client. Okay? So going back sa atong mga mong example ganina, ang pinakauna is sa to pinakauna nga answer. Chrome to. Okay, so katong sunod is TikTok, right? So servers are applications that deliver web content or services to clients. So for example, mo search kag video sa TikTok. Okay? So basically you send a request to TikTok server for you to display the video that you want to play. All right? Or if ganang ka mo gamit sa ilang filter, then you have to search for the filter and every time that you do that, the servers will give you the result that you want. Every time nga naka-request sa TikTok, nakibatan sa TikTok, the server is going to be the ones who are going to provide you with the net information that you want or the data that you require. Okay, so for example, nag-search ka og videos sa TikTok about how to code, right? Or the tools needed, easier way, mo dyan kadalasan sa TikTok, mga easier way in coding, mga inana ba? Kumbaga mga life hacks. But this time around, you can also search for life hacks about World Wide Web or web development, web programming. So every time that you'll do that, and the moment that you receive the list of videos that you can play, servers are the ones doing that for you. So every time nga mo visit ang website, or every time that we'll have web request, the servers will process the request once they received it and send it back to our screens, send it back to the clients. Okay? And then the domain name system server or DNS server is a hierarchical naming system for network devices. It serves as a phone book of the internet, but instead of phone numbers, it uses internet protocol or IP addresses. Okay? So DNS server is just mura siya pakapin ra na siya. Pakapin na siya sa internet, sa World Wide Web, sa internet, so that it would be easy for us to go to websites without necessarily have to enter its IP address one by one. Now, unsa lang din yung IP address? Kana. So let's talk about IP addresses before we start with this discussion. Every computers, okay, remember going back to our description for the internet. Let me write it down here. For the internet, di ba? Computers that are connected. Okay, pila ra ka ba country yun, but I'm not going to draw the millions of computers. Okay, so for this to be connected to the internet, okay, para connected sila tanan sa internet, each computer has their own IP address. Na siya unique IP or Internet Protocol address. So it's the same case if natay mobile phones, mga mobile phones para matawagan nato ang ato mga friend, na siya dapat iyahang phone number, di ba? Na siya phone number. So for example, unsa man yung pagtawag ni nga cellphone using your SIM card, using the network, you'll have to enter this phone's phone number para pwede ka maka-call, right? So that's the same case with the internet, but instead of using phone numbers, okay? So giyon sa ron nga para makadug ka nako ron, makita ka nako ron. It's because the internet, it's true because the internet, but ngano mang specific man jud nga diha ra jud nimo, wala man na salain. It's because your computer has its own IP address, and the internet uses that IP address para matrack ka, para mas specific lang nimo. Og for example, right now you're using your phone. The reason why nakatultol ang imong phone sa akong computer karon para madungog ko nimo, it's because our devices, my laptop, your phone has its own IP address, and the internet makes sure that only our IP addresses will be seen together. Nga na ba? Para matultulan gani niya ang computer, ang device, it uses a unique IP address. Okay? Now, for example, this is YouTube. This is Facebook, this is YouTube, this is Twitter. If these computers or these servers na-share ko yung IP address, and every time that you're going to visit, you need to enter the IP address. Ganang mo ato sa YouTube, i-enter nimo ang IP address para maka-adto ka sa YouTube. Mato ka sa Twitter, mato ka sa Facebook, enter nimo ang IP address. Generally, the idea is that muna para same sa imong phone, para matawagan nimo ang imong friend, you need to enter the phone number. However, it's not gonna be very practical, right? Nganong siguro dili practical nga every time that you visit a website, you need to enter its IP address. Nganong dili siya practical? Would like to try to go ahead, Verbo.
It will consume a lot of time.
Okay, that's true. Consume a lot of time. What else? What else, guys? Ortega, go ahead.
You can search it by search engine, sir.
Okay, I mean, nga naman, di ba? Why is it? Okay, that's true po. Pwede po siya. Pwede mo nang i-search po. Pero ganahan na ko yung usa ka word yun yung ipangita. Why exactly? Nga naman, dili siguro practical nga mo enter ta og IP address every time that we'll visit a website.
Sir.
Go ahead, Ortega.
Nanam siya ihang ko answer URL, ihang URL.
Okay. All right. So that's why the reason why we use URL para magamit siya sa domain name system. That's why the URL kanang atong web address, that's one way of contacting or searching the IP address to the DNS server. Because again, domain name system server is like phone number, a phone book. So unsa na to papangita ang picture, unsa na papangita ang number sa atong phone book, we need a name. Dapat ibutangan nato sa name. So muna siya trabaho sa domain system server. All right? But the reason why, okay, this is the most ang pinaka siguro main reason why is it that we need domain name system server, and why is it's very impractical for us to keep on typing the IP address every time that we visit a website. It's because we are human, di ba? We are human, and imagine there are millions of websites in the entire world, and it would be very hard for us to memorize the IP addresses for every PC, for every website that we want to visit, di ba? So that's the reason why the domain name system server was created. That way, we don't necessarily have to memorize the IP addresses. The same case with a phone book. Oh, sorry. Same case with phone book. We don't necessarily have to enter. We don't have to memorize the phone numbers of our friends or families because we are human. We have limited memory. Malimot magani tao sa ahin nga sa atong linong ag. Limot magita sa linong agani samot na dagay. Malimot kay tag on sa atong rice cooker. Nahulom ta siya. Samot na dagay pag memorize of IP addresses, diba? So that users will no longer have to memorize the IP addresses for each website. So that's the reason why domain name system server is created. The IP addresses will be stored in the DNS server, and every time that we're going to visit a website, i-enter na lang nato ang yang URL or Unified Resource Locator, or it's also called web address. And then what happens is every time that we're going to enter the web address, the domain name system server will look for the IP address based on what you entered and then use it to look for the server. Okay? Now, get an idea about domain name system server, DNS server. So, murag siya Facebook. That's the easiest way to explain it. It's like phone books. But instead of phone numbers, it uses IP addresses. Okay? So, here are some examples of web clients. We have here, obviously, ato mga devices. They are clients. And then we have here web browsers. We have here online games, shopping apps, online shopping apps. We have streaming, video, music, something like that. So these are examples of web clients. So any software that renders or application that renders and requests web contents, that is web client. All right. So this is a general idea on how the web works. Try to take note. Although it looks complicated, but this is the general idea lang. In our next meeting, we're going to discuss it in further details. So we have three, diba? Going back to the definition, it's interaction between three systems. We have client, DNS server, and web server. And then they are connected to the internet. That's why they are able to communicate with each other. Okay, so first is, that's step number 1, a client. All right. So first is you're going to enter the URL or the web address on your client, and every time that you'll do that, it will send a request to the DNS server to look for the IP address. So first is, what exactly is a URL? URL, or a Unified Resource Locator, is a web resource that specifies the location of a website. An Internet Protocol or IP address is a numerical labels assigned to the web server where the web content is located. So again, each computer, specifically or especially the web servers where the website is located, has their own IP address. So especially if mo upload ta og website sa World Wide Web, ug asa na to gi-upload atong website, ug asa na to gi-host, atong hosting services will provide a specific IP address for our website. Para kung pangitawon siya sa mga users, they will be able to locate it. Okay? So for example, mo-visit tag website, the client, using our client like Chrome or web browser, it uses HTTP requests to go to the DNS server, and then the URL is sent to the DNS server to get the IP address through the internet. So first na doon is ang DNS server to get the IP address, because again, para matultulan ang web server, we need the IP address, di ba? Para matultulan nato ang web server, because there are millions of computers around the globe. So we need to go to the DNS server, domain name system server, to get the IP address. And once the IP address is located, then the request continues and then locate the web contents based on the IP address. Pangitaon niya ang web server nga naa sa IP address. And so the IP address is used to locate the host web server, and then Once the web server receives the request, di ba, natutulan na nato ang web server, then the web server processes the request. Okay, the web server processes the request and translate or convert it to HTML form. Okay, the web content is sent back to the browser in HTML form through the internet. So once na-receive na niya ang request, yang i-process, and after that, it will convert it into HTML form and then send it back to the client, and that's the time that we will see it on our screen. Why do you think that it needs to be converted into HTML form? Any idea? Ano siguro i-convert niya into HTML form? Go ahead, Andaya.
Para dali na siya, sir, kay if example, like sa kanang YouTube. So, para makuha ang copy, so iyang i-form siya og if kuan URL para ang iyang for kanang whole nga information dili maputol or dili makuhaan kanang buo na siya, sir, using URL.
Okay, that's true. All right, that's true. But perhaps the pinaka sayon nga. Okay, go ahead, Verbo. Verbo has another.
If I'm not mistaken, sir, it is the only language that HTML that is like acceptable to read, I guess.
Okay, that's true. That's the answer, the right answer. Thank you both, Billy Campa and Verbo. Okay, that's all true. But the main reason why the web server will have to convert it into HTML form first before sending it back to the client, because clients like browsers, okay, for example, browser can only read HTML, kani siya makabasa ra siya HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, we'll talk more about it in our next meeting, but that's the general idea. The reason why the web content must be converted into HTML form because that's the only way that that's the only language or scripts that our client or the web browsers can read. The HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's say, for example, ang website uses PHP nga language. So, dili mabasa sa server sa atong client. Therefore, this PHP must be translated into HTML form first before sending it back to the client para mabasa siya, ma-display siya sa atong screen. And sakto tong giingon ni Miss Julia Campa para dili maputol. Because if dili niya i-convert into HTML form, we cannot see it on our screen. The only thing that we will see are codes, lines of codes, because di man niya ma-render, di man niya ma-view ang content, so di niya ma-render, so therefore iyang i-display is codes lang. Alright, so that's it. And then the process cycles as long as you keep on doing a web request. So for example, okay, so this is a clear example using our browser. Butang natin siya browser. By the way, this applies to any other clients, okay? But perhaps the easiest way to explain it is using browsers. So, for example, we're using browser. We're going to open up YouTube. I'm sorry, NORSU website. So we entered. Oops, sorry, nakabalabag akong text. Let me erase that one. Okay. So for example, i-visit na ang NORSU website. So we entered www.norsu.edu.ph on our client, on our browser. Once we enter that, it uses this URL. Pangitaon na siya dito sa DNS server to get the IP address. Okay, so once the DNS server finds the IP address, which is this, let me write it down, 103.68.157.2. Okay, so that is the IP address for NORSU website. Now, once the DNS server gets the IP address, then it will be used to locate the web server that has this IP address. Pangitaon niya ang web server nga kung asa ni naka-save o asa ni na-locate na IP address. So once this IP address is located or this web server is located, then ang web server i-process ang request and then convert the contents to HTML. So maybe ang NORSU website is written using PHP, and then napo siya may SQL for database, so on and so forth. I-convert sa niya into HTML and then send it back to the client, and then it will be displayed on our screen because the client or our browser was able to read it since it is already an HTML. Okay? So, how does it, yung sam siya nga posible for us to be able to transfer from client DNS server to web server because of the internet. Okay? So, that's it. So, maybe one question is that if we're going to compare DNS server to a phone book, kung i-compare nato siya into a phone book, di ba? Is it possible nga kung manawag ta, if wala nato gi-save ang number sa phone book, if we enter lang nato directly ang number sa atong call, makatawag ra ba gyapon ta? Makatawag ra gyapon ta sa atong friend bisag di na ta magamit phone book? Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, that's true, right? So, although we don't necessarily have to use, or although kinahanglan ta og phone book so that we don't have to memorize all the numbers nga atong tawagan, it is still possible for us to call without saving it to phone book. Tawagan na nato direkta, and then if we memorize the number, we just entered it and then call, right? How about now, if DNS servers are like phone book, can we do that? Do you think we can search a website by only entering the IP address? Di na ta kinahanglan mo enter sa iyahang URL? Do you think it's possible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, since we compared that into phone books, let's try. We will try, okay? This time around, we'll try to visit the website, but instead of using URL, we'll try to enter the IP address directly. So, natay 103.68.157.2. Alright? So, mo na ni ang IP address sa NORSU. And then, if we're going to enter that, let's see if it will work. Okay, it worked, right? So that means DNS server are indeed like phone books. Although we need it because we don't have to memorize the entire or all the IP addresses of all the websites around the globe, but we can still use the IP address directly in locating the website. So just to make sure that mo work gyapon siya using the URL, let's open it up again. This time around, let's open up using the URL. So norsu.edu.ph. Okay, same thing, diba? But this time it took significantly longer. Medyo mas dugay siya mga pila ka milliseconds later. It's because niyagi pa man siya sa DNS and then the server and then send it back to my end. All right? So we can use, if naka-memorize mo sa IP address, you can enter the IP address. And then if you don't know, you can just enter the website address. Alright? So, but who does that? Kinsa man yung memorize yung IP address? Mga nerd ra dyan ang memorize yung IP address. Joke lang. Alright? So that is the general idea on how the web works. Do you have any questions? Any clarifications? Huwag naman inalib ka. We'll discuss that before we proceed to our next topic, next meeting, which is doing an in-depth discussion. Do you have any questions, guys? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyway, if you have any questions, make sure to send it to our chat group na lang sa Facebook if naman gani. If naman nalibgan, especially once you take your assessment activity and once you do your assignment as well. So just don't hesitate to send a message on our GC. Tag lang ko para ma-notice na ko dahil. Para mo notify sa ako. Alright, so that is if you have any questions or clarifications. So, to assess your learning from today's lesson, I hope you really do. Kuan, sabtan niyo tanan. Please fill out this form. It will be uploaded in our. Please fill out the form that I will be uploading later on today sa our Google Classroom, and then the deadline is gonna be medyo taas 1 week ang gihatag kay sa mga Thursday matong klase good. So I'll give you Thursday up until Thursday just before we end our class, or not Thursday dapat say pa kung date, pasensya na. Okay, let's make it clear. The deadline should be next week na lang, next week yapon sa same time, 11 Thursday. Unsa man adlaw na Thursday? Unsa pitsahan ng Thursday? Say pa akong date nga nabutang.
29.
Okay, 29.
Sir, 29.
Okay, 29 Thursday at 11:59 p.m. So make sure to, I'll upload the assessment later on, and then just open up our Google Classroom. And then for your assignment, it will also be uploaded through Google Classroom. Ano, puro save niya akong day. Ay, saan na. Alright. Ay, sakto. The reason why yung na-save niya is because this was prepared last meeting. Mata na din last week. Last week, I mean, karon dapat ang deadline. So, mo na save niya. Mata na din ang klase because we were busy preparing the laboratories. But anyway, for your assignment, in your own words, discuss your thoughts briefly to support the following facts about the World Wide Web. So the following, these 5 sentences are facts about the World Wide Web. So these are all true. Again, these are all true. You just have to discuss your thought briefly, okay? This is very important. Gamay lang, harang mabasa na ako. Okay. Brief lang. 5 words would be enough so long as you get the idea again. Each answer. So dynamic websites are preferred more by many businesses organizations. So nga namang ang dynamic websites daw are preferred more by many business organizations. Now, second, web browsers cannot render server-side scripting languages like PHP. That's true, but why? The internet can be compared to the highway connecting cities and towns. That is true. Why? The domain name system server or DNS server is like phone book for the web. Explain that. And then static websites are cheaper to build but more expensive to maintain compared to dynamic websites. Okay, on your own word, okay? Mabalaan na ba na ako ang mga kinopya sa internet? Ma-check na ako similarities ba for plagiarism. So, just on your own word, since that is to check if I was able, kung maiba na akong pagka-explain, then I would be very happy if I read something that is something that you gikan sa inyong kaugaling ni answer. Okay? And then the deadline is going to be still Thursday, September 29th at 9 p.m. All of it will be through Google Classroom. Do you have any questions with your assessment and assignment?
Upload na nimo sa classroom, sir.
Oh, i-upload na ako. After this class, I will upload it. Okay. Alright, so maybe you're wondering about online class. Right now, face-to-face class. Right now, we are still waiting for approval. And what's going to happen is that it will be divided into different batches because we're only allowed gipagamian raman ang mga computer laboratory, computer sulod sa lab. So, ang hitabaan ay ibay batch na to, and soon I will going to magsabot rami sa bang instructors para kay ang hitabaan ay kay Monday and Tuesday first year, Monday first year, Tuesday and Wednesday second year, and then third year, fourth year will be Friday. So, ang buhaton ani para dili jud mo balik-balik sa eskwelahan kay ang mga major subjects raman nga na ay laboratory ang allow nga face-to-face limited. So, para dili mo sige balik-balik. So, if your first batch sa CSC 304, ano sila yung subject aside sa CSC 304? Major nga na laboratory.
CSC 300.
Okay, so na 304, na 300, or basta. Okay. Og namoy 303, namoy 304. If first batch ka sa 304, then we will make sure nga first batch po ka sa CSC 303 para gani dili kanang di mo balik-balik ba. So para makuha ra nimo sa kada yung klase. That's what we are trying to do. We're trying to do our best to make sure nga it would be easy for you to handle the face-to-face nga class para di magbalik-balik, especially itong kapuyo, lagyo, ayungon, bindoy, manhuyod, tayasan, o sa tanhay, na ba? Halos kay Plitib, mahal kay Plitib na ron. So, we'll try to do our best to make it as easier for you guys. But right now, we're still waiting yun. The laboratory needs to be checked by the ICS. And then kung makapasar siya, then we can go with our scheduled limited face-to-face class. However, since atong ginabuhat kayo nga first year mo Monday first year, second year, since mo na mahitabo na po yung mga maligsan ng mga subject mo good, ma-conflict sa iba ninyong mga minor nga subjects. So that's what we're trying to fix right now. Sir Benhart specifically is currently working on that. Ma'am Naida, our dean, or Ma'am Kalumpang, our dean, is also trying to fix that para pasigpwede na tumahangya o ba yung instructors sa GE subjects. Pwedeng ma-move ba, ma-set into another day or something like that para ra gyud maka-handle ta face to face. So we're trying to, they are trying, wala ko ilabot. Ikot ako mutabang, kung sa'yo mutabang. They're trying to have a talk with the other department para matagaan mo, ma-schedulean dun mo ba para sa face-to-face. And more details will be discussed in the future as soon as matagaan may new information, we will share it to you directly, okay? So if no more questions, please turn on your cameras one last time, and then so we can have our picture taken. And I've checked your attendance. There are a total of 24. Let me save it real quick. CSC programming. So perfect attendance for today. Although na ay mga putol-putol. Hold on. Okay, let me first show you the attendance para makabulong mo nga. The attendance is here. Let me show it to you real quick. Dali lang ha, dali lang. Turn on, just keep your cameras on. Okay, darang attendance daw. So I have here, kaning mga pula, mo ni siya katong less than 65% of the time. So mo ni sila. But we have complete attendance today. There are 24 of us. 23 man tong sa listahan. So that's good, very good everyone. So this is your attendance for today. We're going to download it. Okay. All right. So let me stop my screen. Okay. Okay. I'll turn on your cameras, guys, and ready. 3, 2, 1. Smile. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
sir. Thank you,
Pod.
sir.
Thank you, Pod.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.